This is awkward. Hello, Sci Fi Gangstas. Anthony Dannar, Jeremy Shepard, Will Moon here. We got a good show for you today. I guess, is that what we call it a show? Is it a show? If you're watching us on YouTube, hello. We are also on SoundCloud, so you can watch us in podcast form.
And listen to us.
Listen to us on podcast form. And one of these days, I'll figure out how to put it on iTunes, and you'll be able to listen to us on iTunes. So that'll be a lot of fun. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, check us out on YouTube. How about that?
Smiling faces.
Beautiful faces.
Really make it.
We got Dr. Pepper here, we got Starbucks, and we got coffee. So we got very different forms here.
This is also coffee.
That is true. That is also coffee.
This is also coffee.
There, okay.
Wait, no,
It's just in a Dr. Pepper.
It's just a cold coffee and a Dr. Pepper.
I don't like buying cups.
So we got that out of the way. So this topic we're going to start off with is we're going to talk about some science. Let's talk about science. Is science a Sci-Fi Gangstas? We'll have fun with it. Science news. I need like a drop there. Science news.
Yeah.
All
right.
Stuff in the world of science.
Breaking Bad. Science bitches.
The science bitches.
Science, bitch.
That would actually be pretty good. That's pretty solid. I might need to do that. News in the world of science that you're excited about. We'll take turns. We'll talk about it. We'll have a little fun. Let's start with Will. What's one thing? Oh, by the way, we do need to introduce the Will buzzer. Will, you are very knowledgeable. You are a very intelligent man. So when you speak, you have a lot of things to say, and sometimes you speak a little too long. So I have the Will buzzer to buzz you in when I.
Also a taboo buzzer.
It is a taboo. It is a taboo buzzer.
It does double duty.
But it is also the Will buzzer, so that's good. So Will, let's go ahead and start off. Talk a little about that.
Well, mine was going to be a little bit more of a sidebar because I wanted to put in a word for David Bowie. He passed away earlier this week.
All right.
And music, especially progressive rock in the 70s, really played at science fiction a lot, but you don't really normally associate the two. I mean, you guys did the soundtracks one, I guess, last month.
We did.
This.
We did.
So you think about music from movies in many cases. Sometimes it's like a score. Sometimes it's something that existed before and then was put in that context. But Bowie was probably as close as there has been to science fiction character rock star, and it wasn't just Ziggy Stardust, so that's a huge part of it. I mean, his single was Space Oddity, which was released in between the release of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is where the title was taken from, and then about 5 days before Apollo 11 launched, I think it came out in England, and it was a big hit for him in '69 in England, and then later was a hit here. He was into a lot of Nietzsche and a lot of stuff about the new generation sort of evolving beyond the old generation. Even in this very lighthearted type pop songs, you'll hear lyrics like that. If you listen to them, it's kind of dark.
So what do you mean by evolution? Like, what do you mean? What would be the change?
Well, he did a song on The Man Who Sold the World called The Superman, and he was very much into that idea of Superman, which separate from Superman is a very major Nietzsche theory. And he was very into Nietzsche in general, and it shows up a lot in the various aspects of his career, which famously he changed a lot sonically in his persona from album to album. But that was pretty constant. And "Oh You Pretty Things," which is a very jaunty piano song on Hunky Dory. Okay. He talks about you got to make way for the homo superior, and he's talking specifically about the new generation, the younger generation that listen to rock and pop music, kind of growing beyond their parents and almost as they were a new form of humanity, like an evolution. 5 years starts off the Ziggy Stardust album, and it talks about the Earth being destroyed in 5 years. All the Young Dudes, which he wrote for Mouth the Hooples, a similar kind of thing. He kind of put some doomy apocalyptic stuff in there. Okay. Diamond Dogs, the album is set in a post-apocalyptic future. Station to Station introduced Thin White Duke, who's this really weird, very, very difficult character that Bowie played that almost killed him because he was a major addict at this point. And he weighed 90 pounds and drank milk and ate peppers, and that's all he did.
So what was the Labyrinth about then? Was that about?
Labyrinth was something that I don't know how much creative input he had in the general idea of Labyrinth, but he definitely his ability to do outlandish characters like that and make them work was a huge part of why he was picked. I mean, you look at Ziggy Stardust, and there's a pretty similar template to
there is
with the hair and the flamboyant costumes. maybe not the copies.
The
That was a one of a kind.
the visible ball sack.
Yes.
That
But
was
yeah,
good.
that kind of stuff just ran through a lot of his music. And I mean, he had songs directly about space and about space exploration, songs about the future, songs about the coming apocalypse. And many of these, again, wrapped up in very, very poppy sounds. But
Right.
he was a very interesting guy. He had some very heady concepts he brought into music. And at a time when science fiction culture was pretty out there, Ziggy Stardust was a very out there part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that he kind of shocked people with some of his behavior and his look. And then he kind of slyly sort of changed that character a little bit for the next two albums with Aladdin Sane and Halloween Jack. But I don't know. As a performer, there was a lot there, and a lot of it did come from topics that wouldn't be out of place here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the coolest thing about Bowie was that the sci-fi community has always been accepting of fringes, right? And you couldn't really define Bowie. I mean, he had periods where he was effeminate and he enjoyed the company of men. He had periods where he was just him.
Right.
And that's kind of where a lot of people find their home.
Let's talk real quick about biopic, because a biopic's probably it's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah.
Is there an actor that you think, actor or actress, that you think that could play Bowie off the top of your head? I know we didn't talk about this beforehand.
I mean, maybe Tilda Swinton. She was in.
I've been hearing a lot about that.
She was in one of the videos for not this one album that just
Right.
came out before he died, but the last album last year.
Actually heard that name
They
a lot.
have that androgynous feel.
Yeah.
There's a movie called Velvet Goldmine that came out in the late 90s that is about David Bowie, but not, because he wouldn't grant them the rights to the music, and so they sort of fictionalized it more. But it's definitely very Bowie inspired. Ewan McGregor's character in that I think he's the guy that could do it. Again, effectively would be what it would be doing.
Can he sing? Yeah, he can sing. Yeah.
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Just about every actor can sing too.
Right,
They
that's
always
true.
sing a lot better than you ever would imagine.
I wonder if Fassbender would be good. If Fassbender could
He
sing.
can pretty much play anybody. I think.
I'm a huge fan of
Yeah,
Fassbender.
he's
I really
great.
am.
He's really talented.
Got a bit of a man crush on Fassbender.
Well, another thing with Bowie is the same director who made Velvet Goldmine made I'm Not There, the Bob Dylan movie where
Oh,
six different people played him,
Yeah.
and they're wildly different
Oh,
from each other. There's a young African American child. There's Kate Blanchett. There's played from the most famous Dylan, the very confrontational mid-60s version.
Okay.
Richard Gere plays the kind of hippie Western Dylan from the 70s and does a really good job. And Christian Bale plays sort of the very issues-driven acoustic singer-songwriter. Heath Ledger was him as an actor. So you had the multiple versions of him. And maybe you could do something like that again, where you have like a Ziggy Stardust era, an early hippie singer-songwriter Bowie, the later 80s pop Let's Dance, super duper star Bowie, like the different versions that have gone on throughout. That's a possibility too. But Tilda Swinton is definitely an intriguing possibility.
Yeah. I've actually heard that name get thrown around a lot, so that's good. David Bowie. There you go. Good topic. I like it. I do love it. All right, so Jeremy, let's talk about what do you got for us? What do you got? Does it involve math? If it involves math,
it doesn't involve math.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
everything involves math.
Not directly.
Okay.
I guess it kind of plays off Bowie thing. It's about chemotherapy.
Oh, okay.
So there was a study published recently where they have figured out a way to make this chemotherapy drug about 50 times more effective, both in vitro and in vivo, and in rodent models. So basically what they're doing, they're taking these things called exosomes, which are these membranes derived from the white blood cells of the person. They put the chemo drug in it, and the body doesn't attack it, right? So it goes straight to the tumor can't fight it, and it kills the tumor.
Okay.
So you don't have the side effects you would have with higher doses, and you don't have the resistance to chemo.
I wonder how they control where it goes then. How do you, I'm assuming scientists know how to do this, but how do you make sure that white blood cell is going to attack the actual cancer and not the...
So that's just kind of how the body's immune system works.
Okay.
I mean, it'll shuttle things to wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, I thought that was the thing about cancer, though, that the reason why the body can't fight it is because it doesn't know that if there's anything wrong.
No, it doesn't respond to normal signals.
Okay.
So it doesn't respond to a process called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. The cell won't die. It's an eternal cell, basically. So you have to find some... Now, and sometimes the immune system will clear it out. It will clear it. But if you have an advanced case, then you have to go chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, things like that.
Cool. Another really cool topic.
Yeah.
Very cool topics. I'll talk about a little bit about NASA. So I posted this article. I know you guys probably read it or at least looked at it. You read the title. Read the article.
Skimmed it.
So apparently,
I
I actually heard this. I was listening to NPR the other day. I listen to NPR. It's okay. I was listening to NPR, and they they said that NASA's budget actually got like not just doubled, but it was like a huge increase in their budget, way bigger than it was last year, and they're using it to advances in space travel. So the goal is to go to Mars. Okay. So my big thing, I've always said this. We should be on Mars by now. Like, there's really no excuse for us not to be on Mars. Like, we are far more ready to go to Mars than we ever were to go to the moon back in the 60s, right?
Well, Carl Sagan thought that if we had had the same momentum, if it hadn't stopped, if we had carried on past the moon and continued on, we'd have been in Mars in the 80s.
Right. And that's the thing. We don't have any momentum. There's no reason to go. And we're kind of, we don't want to get into politics, but we're kind of focused on our own little internal problems, I guess you could say, rather than trying to promote ingenuity and trying to promote discovery. Like,
well, conflict does breed that. I mean, the Cold War was the main reason we went there in the first place, and the Cold War was a huge factor in a lot of great scientific innovation, a lot of terrifying ones too, the bombs. Yep. But it was a big part of it. I mean, that was a political thing. When Kennedy said we'll be on the moon by the end of the decade,
right?
That was they had to accomplish that. It would have been seen as a failure because the Russians beat us to space. Yep. They beat us with Yuri Gagarin and Sputnik and the dog. I mean, everything. They beat us every step of the way until the moon.
Right.
And the moon became our big goal. And it is. Even though it may not have been done for the right reasons, it's probably the greatest thing we've ever done.
And that's the thing. If we go to Mars, could you imagine kids growing up watching us land on Mars? Yeah. Like, I mean, our kids would grow up to want to become scientists, and astronauts, opposed to.
Yeah. I mean, that's back in the end of World War II with the Manhattan Project and when Einstein was still around. Scientists were celebrities. I mean, they were the equivalent of movie stars today. I mean, you still have movie stars, but they made the news. I mean, they were a big deal.
Oppenheimer, von Braun, all the Operation Paperclip, the German scientists because don't worry about all that genocide. We'll just come over here and build a rocket so we can be that was a deal that we made. We don't just do that in Captain America comics. We do it in real life. Right. And it was a big factor in us being able to get there because the Germans had great technology. And they may have been able to beat us with it if Hitler hadn't been so stupid.
He was kind of a jerk. Hitler was kind of a jerk.
He wasn't the best tactically.
He wasn't a very nice guy.
Stuff like that he didn't do a very good job of. But they speaking of things being done for the wrong reasons, a lot of great innovations came from that war.
That's true.
And we're trying to kill each other more efficiently, and instead they at least put them to use to get us to the moon. Yeah. And hopefully they can put them back to use and get us to Mars. It wasn't like one of the big reasons why people don't want to do it now is because there's a budget crisis. We're spending money on everything. Yep. And so we can't afford to spend money on this. Yeah, well, people said the same things in the 60s. Yeah. They really did. It wasn't like people were just like waiting every day to get to the moon. They saw Vietnam. They saw race issues big time in this country. There was the Cold War. The specter of an imminent nuclear fireball death was always sitting there. And they necessarily weren't just waking up every day like, man, I hope we land on the moon today. Yeah. But when we did,
it was a big deal.
Holy crap.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, it turned a lot of the opinion on
it. And I actually think it would be, I know we're kind of into all kinds of other things now. But imagine if we actually did land on the moon, on Mars. And I know they're trying to find other ways to do it, like commercially, like we're trying to reality shows and like independent companies and stuff like that.
Elon Musk and people like
that.
Right.
So I'm excited. I'm excited of the idea that we're finally saying, okay, look, let's make a plan. Yeah. It's probably going to take a while. We're not doing it tomorrow. We're not going to Mars tomorrow. But let's make a plan. Let's make a step-by-step process. Let's get us there. I understand. Go to Mars, extremely dangerous. You can die so many ways on the way to Mars. Okay. And I understand that. But there's never going to be a non-dangerous way, a safe way to go to Mars.
You're never going to have anyone who wants to go to Mars it wouldn't even be a factor.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a
They'll
consideration.
sign up right away.
Yeah.
Everyone will sign up.
Yeah,
Yep.
I saw a documentary on it called Mission to Mars.
Did you see it? Did you see it?
They die multiple ways in that movie, but at the end, I'm not really sure what happens at the end.
All I want to do,
Doesn't make sense.
all
But
I want to do, all I want to do is bring Matt Damon home. I want to bring him home. He needs to come home.
that was a huge hit, and that could actually get a little bit of a push going for. That was kind of a NASA commercial.
It
was a
good
good
one. So it was.
Did y'all see the string of people who thought it was a documentary?
Really?
They thought it was based on a real story?
We don't have a lot of small people.
No, we don't.
We don't have a lot.
Yeah.
All right, that was a good topic. We're talking a little bit about science. We can talk about a little science and David Bowie. Science, David Bowie.
And some Mars and all ties
Mars.
together.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
there'll be spiders
Chemo
on Mars.
Chemo on Mars.
Yeah,
Chemo on Mars.
David Bowie.
And David Bowie.
He is the ocean from which all things flow.
Right, right.
Here on the show.
All right, that was a good one. All right, so I guess it's the point of the video where I say like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Watch us on SoundCloud and YouTube and tell us what you liked in the world of science